So let's hop on to maybe the most interesting tie. I mean, the tie that's obviously going to headline any advertising of this round. Man City versus Real Madrid. Now, interestingly enough, it kind of seemed like there was a point where each of these teams looked like, not that they weren't going to go through, but it was going to be, tighter than maybe people would think.
No.
And then Real Madrid.
I mean, City legitimately looked like they weren't going to go through.
Correct.
When it was halftime against Club Brugge and they were down 1-0, it was like, is this team just going to be like, hey, we're good?
Yeah, Real Madrid after match week 5 were in 24th, which is the last qualifying place. And then City was legitimately out of it, like you said, after match day 7. And then they went down 1-0 to Club Brugge. And it was like, wow, so they're actually about to go out. But now they're obviously both through, but now they're playing each other. And this is why the format isn't good, I think, because people are just the big clubs are supposed to go through, but we also want upsets. So I don't know what are your, I mean, you're a Real Madrid fan, so what are your immediate thoughts when you think about this tie?
It's funny. I've kind of done a back and forth, and I'll try not to make the monologue too long. But when this is I think the 4th year in a row we've played them in the Champions League. So first 2 years when we played them, I was like, yep, no chance really. Just gonna have to park the bus, hope for maybe a counter, and that was probably more City at their peak too, the way they were operating. Ended up beating them one of those years, obviously when we won the 2022 Champions League. That was Benzema, Rodrigo, obviously with that iconic brace. Hopefully he'll be doing it for Arsenal one day. I just say that for you, not like I want to get rid of him.
At Meridian. That's what I remember about that tie. We were at Meridian watching
it,
and he scored that brace
yes,
in like 2 minutes.
Bruh, that was crazy. Good times. But then last year when we played him, I was like, you know what? Like, and you can ask Jonathan Ryder, who was just on the pod last time, because we were talking a lot at that point about the tie. I was not worried even in the slightest because I thought City's defense was just too exposed, too open. This year, I'm kind of like, you can kind of talk me into any scenario because I think both of these teams are fairly flawed right now. Madrid's, I think, have a little bit more to do with injury. City, I guess you could say, have to do with injury as well because as much as I think their midfield has no legs, if you have a controller in there like Rodri, the legs part isn't going to play as big of a factor, or it's not going to be as noticeable. So, and then when you get to the back line, it's like, we were joking the other day when it was like, all right, Alaba and Rudiger are both going to be out. And I think Rudiger would probably play in the second leg if he has a chance to, just because that's the type of player he is. But the back four of Tchouaméni, Asensio, Vasquez, and then Fran Garcia, who has somehow usurped Mendy as the starting left back, versus whatever City back four, even though they're healthy. It was like, well, which one's got the worst back four? Because you really don't know right now. I mean,
when
City have given up 30
center backs in at halftime yesterday. That was all time stuff.
City have allowed 35 goals this season in all competitions. That's crazy. So I don't.
There's only one team that's
not in all competitions. Not in all competitions. This is just in the league. Mm-hmm. They've given up 35 goals. Yeah, we know. We know who's put up 7. Damn, that is crazy. Y'all put up 7 of them
in 2 games.
But exactly.
I'll hush. We haven't won as many trophies as Erling Haaland.
Stay humble, eh? Stay humble.
I haven't won as many trophies as Haaland.
I gotta say,
Haaland.
Yeah. Just real quickly, that's such bullshit. And this isn't Ethan. Like, I get it. Maybe people will say, "Oh, you guys you're sticking up for him because he's your brother and the podcast co-host." Right, exactly. Like this is. I just don't understand where it's like, all right, you beat the shit out of City. Like, you don't just beat them, you beat the shit out of them. No doubt about it. Game was not, you could argue maybe for like 5 minutes, game was in the balance after City equalized. But really not even, because Arsenal scored like kind of immediately right after. So maybe for about 45 seconds, game was in the balance. And then because they won that one now, and it's not even because they won that one, because they celebrated beating the hell out of somebody. That's the reason they lost to Newcastle in the Cup. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, this is why I kind of hate some of the former players, because it's like, so you're not allowed to celebrate any win, but then at the same time you're like, oh, look how much it means to them, or some shit like that whenever like someone does celebrate winning a game. So it's like, when can you celebrate, when can you not? Like, is there a handbook out there for all of us non-former professional athletes that we can kind of just follow along with?
And then it's like a flow chart. It's like, have you won X trophy? Are you better than X player? We got into this the other day, but it's like, I don't understand, like, people being, because it's a give and a take. Like, you get shit on, you shit on other people. You're allowed to sort of do it when you do it to other people. And I feel like the people that are really policing it the most, it's funny when the professionals do it, because I'm like, I didn't watch the games live, but I feel like there's no way in hell Gary Neville wasn't giving it Zidane when they played it against him.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no way in hell Roy Keane wasn't giving it Zidane and being like, oh, blah, blah. It's like, well, Zidane's 3 times the player you ever were, so I thought you weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah, and Roy Keane, who we know is like a passion merchant, like that's like the one quality he was able to bring to the game. And it's like I find it so hard to believe that it was like, because like, say what you want, the dude definitely won a bunch of big games. I mean, he's clearly got a shit ton of trophies that he won. You don't just win those by not winning big games, although weirdly enough, you actually can. Like, there's no way he just won a huge match and was like, all right, good job, and then just walked off the pitch into the locker room with a scowl like this on his face.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, it's okay to celebrate. Like, it's okay to be happy about what you do, but I don't know. Back to, I don't want to get us derailed down the Arsenal, because I know we could double the length of this podcast if it was up to you as a producer. But all that to say, I'm going to obviously pick Real Madrid just because, like, it's my team. It's my guys. Like, it's really my soccer guys. But I think the midfield, and I've said this about 3 or 4 different matchups, but the midfield is really going to be where it's won for us. It's going to be a mix of Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and De Bruyne. Maybe a little bit of Foden in there, who's played better as of late, but still not, to his...
Had a good assist against Arsenal the other day.
Still not quite to the level that you would associate with the guy who's the reigning PFA Player of the Year, but whatever. But then you look at Madrid's midfield. I think Ceballos is going to play a huge part, and Ceballos is like, look, in theory, would you want a better version of Ceballos? Yes. But then you actually look at what Ceballos does, and it's like, if the player was any better, then he wouldn't do the stuff he does as far as the running, the work rate, the extra tracking back, going for that pass that no one else is going for, diving when he needs to dive. Talking about like sliding, not like just flopping, because he does that all the time. Yeah. He does the flopping all the time. So he's gonna and he's kind of reinvented himself as like this deep line playmaker who can like kind of keep it ticking and all that stuff, and that allows guys like Valverde and Bellingham to be more advanced, obviously, even though, and when we talked about it, it was like, are they just playing with one midfielder? That's going to be tough. And then Camavinga is back now as well, which I think is going to be super crucial because just as far as like a mobile ball winner, I think he's like one of like the best in Europe, truthfully. And he just hasn't played at all for us this year. He's only played 500 league minutes, which is crazy. I didn't even realize it was that low. But yeah, I think with the midfield, it's going to be just enough to kind of see us through. And then, like the Real Madrid formula, can you get a couple of individual moments of brilliance from a front three that I think has started to look better? As you talked about in that Atleti game, there was a lot more interchanging. You were seeing Mbappe pop up on the right-hand side, even on the touchline on the right at certain points. Rodrigo. That's the thing. All three of those guys dribble, pass, shoot. They're comfortable doing all three of those. So when you have that, and you have guys who can drop into the half space or can run in behind, I think that gives you a lot of options for a City defense that has struggled against predictable teams. So when you try and allegedly have him go against an unpredictable attack, I think that creates even more headaches for him.
Yeah, I know we kind of want it to be, but I really don't think that this is a big, like, complicated tie at all. I don't really think that there's a way that City goes through, especially since it's happening now. Like I said, maybe if it was like, oh, leg one now, like you're saying, if it's leg one now, leg two, a month and a half down the line, then maybe I could see a way where they could get a win. But it's like, when their current form, they've been so poor. And it's, I was telling Savannah when I, watched them a couple times, it's like, they would just give the ball away, like, under no pressure, just like giving it to the other team. And I'm like, I've never seen a City team ever do this, ever. Like, not even a Pep team, like an actual City team. Even like back to the days of like Yaya Toure and like, freaking 100-year-old Frank Lampard playing center mid for him. I was like, I've never seen them give the ball away as much as they do now. And in like
the first time they were cheating.
Exactly. In like horrible areas too. And it's just like, even when they get in the final third, you would think, it's like, I was like, oh, here's Doku. Oh, here's Savinho. Oh, here's Marmouche. Here, it's just kind of like, I at no point do I ever, and then Kevin De Bruyne plays 25 minutes a game for some reason. So even when you listed him as one of their midfielders, it's like, I don't know, is he going to start? I mean, you would think he would at least start their big games if he was on some sort of minutes restriction or something like that. But it's like, he came on in like the 65th, 70th minute against Arsenal, which I know people don't want to admit is a huge game, but away at Arsenal, away at the second team in the league, like that's a big game. And they were just like, nah, we're not even going to start this guy at all. So it's kind of insane.
The De Bruyne, I was going to say the De Bruyne Pep dynamic is something that we've been kind of talking about for the last 6 to 12 months. And even if you like some of the stuff he said about him recently, where I think this is not. It was like the last game he played well. I think it was right before Arsenal. It might have been that Ipswich game where Pep was like, oh, yeah, he's Kevin De Bruyne back to the best form of his career. And it's like, as soon as he says that, De Bruyne is just at a different phase of his career, because there's no way if he's Pete Kevin De Bruyne, like, you need to pump him up like that, saying just a straight up lie.
Right.
So that was like almost a bat signal to me, being like, okay, maybe he really doesn't trust this guy anymore.
Right. And it's just like, it seems like his legs have gone. He's obviously still got some quality left in him.
Now, I know he's going to score 2 in the first leg now.
Well, but I mean, he scored a great goal against Leyton Orient yesterday. So I mean, he's back into the swing of things. But yeah, I don't think that the City team just isn't very good, and they don't. I can't say that Pep is quit, but it doesn't seem like Pep is working, usual magic with them. But like you said, they're probably going to end up, doing something crazy, at least making it a good tie, if not going through, and we're going to look like idiots. So, but I'm perfectly fine.
Not me. I'm still. I'm not saying believing in City, but like, I don't think this is going to be straightforward at all.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you say, I think it's going to be fairly straightforward, unless you guys play like ass, which
is possible.
It's possible.
Like, that's.
I just don't think it's going to be
how many times
of City.
It'll be self-inflicted wounds.
Correct. It's not going to be like, oh, Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, and Foden are just going to go out there and have an absolute midfield masterclass, and they're going to play you guys off the park, and it's going to be 1-0 or something like that. It's like, oh, Real Madrid had 5.3 xG, scored 1 goal, and then City won a pen, and Haaland scored it. And he's cold. He's cold for that. So that's how I could see, maybe a close tie coming together. But other than that, I don't think it's going to be like 2 teams going back and forth playing really, really well, and then City comes out on top.